Hello, I'm Phyllis Paisley, the Executive Director of the Missouri Alliance for Arts Education, and I'm really glad to be with you here at the MAEA Spring Conference 2021, both virtually and in person. The Missouri Alliance for Arts Education is a nonprofit service organization that is dedicated to arts advocacy, and we thought we were uniquely poised to give some tips for everyday advocacy that can be done by very, very busy teachers just in the course of their day-to-day life. So, welcome to Everyday Advocacy, sponsored by the Missouri Alliance for Arts Education. If you are not familiar with our organization, I thought I'd tell you just a little bit. We are, as I said before, a nonprofit service organization. We connect Missouri's arts education communities in dance, music, theater, and visual arts. And here on the screen, you see just a few of the organizations that are a part of our network. What we do is connect, promote, educate, research, and celebrate, all in the name of arts advocacy. Our mission and vision are shared here, but basically we want to help teachers do a better job of reaching all Missouri students and helping them have the highest quality arts education experiences and help them reach their full potential. Our little byline is every school, every child, every day. MAAE and MAEA have a partnership that has lasted many years, and listed here on the screen are just some of the things that we have done together. We look forward to this opportunity to work with you and also to continue our collaboration in the future. So, about everyday advocacy. A lot of people think that it has just to do with legislative advocacy, but it's really something that can happen on field trips, in the boardroom, in your fellow teacher meetings, in parent-teacher conferences, in meetings with your building principal. It can happen throughout your everyday life. But honestly, it's about these two fundamentals: building positive relationships, develop and refining what it is you are asking for. First, let's talk about the word advocacy or lobbying. A lot of people have a really negative connotation attached to that word, but please remember it is your First Amendment right, and decision makers really, really need to hear from you because you know a world that they do not inhabit. So not only is it your right, it's your duty to stand up for the issues that affect you and the arts, both in your school, in your classroom, in your program, and across your state. School employees and members of 501c3s are allowed to advocate. It is protected by the First Amendment. And the definition really for lobbying is to try to influence someone, to try to get them to see the world a little bit the way that you see the world. And really, that's just about building relationships and helping build a common shared vision. 4 simple steps for advocacy. It truly is this simple. Know what you're talking about. Know your issue. Know who you're talking to. Know your audience. And then make sure your message is tight, concise, and clear, clean, and refined. And finally, just rehearsing and polishing your delivery, just like performing artists rehearse before they go on stage, and artists take care of the rough edges or even just the action of matting a piece of work that helps polish the finished performance. And so it's something that arts teachers are very familiar with, but it's something that they seldom apply when dealing with advocacy issues. It's really the same process. First, knowing your issue and knowing your audience. It's going to change based on your situation. What's important is to do your homework and really know about the issue that you're addressing. Its past, its present, its future, and specifics really do help. When it comes to your audience, finding out what is important to those people that you're talking to, what is valued, and tailoring your request to help match those values is a really helpful suggestion and will guide you towards success. So I'm going to introduce you to a wealth of resources here. It's called Arts Equals Opportunity, and it is a research project from Cal State University at San Marcos. They took the arguments in favor of arts education and broke them into 3 general categories and 15 specific arguments. Then they collected research that supported each one of those arguments. It is free, it is open source, it is ready and available for your use whenever you need it, whenever that message is going to be crafted. Then these pieces of research can help support your efforts. And so the name of the initiative is Art Equals Opportunity. And on this slide, there's a link to how to get to all those resources. What you see on the screen here are the 3 categories on the left: excellence in education, 2, living life to the fullest, and 3, preparation for the workplace. The cards are color coded in that the green cards are all about educational excellence, the blue cards are all about the affective domain, and the orange cards are all about skills and those qualities in employees that employers find most attractive, what they're looking for in their employees as they're moving forward. So on the next 4 slides, for your later perusal, because I will be saving these slides as a PDF, you can click on these links and dig a little more deeply if there's ever something that you would like. And of course, there's a link to the hub that's based with Arts CA, Arts California. But it goes through each of those 15 arguments in each of those categories for you, and just a way to fine tune your message to that particular audience. Engaged and motivating students is something that your principals really would like to hear. Test hire is something maybe your both principals and district administrators would like to hear. So as you are crafting your message, perhaps this research will be of assistance to you. Here are all the cards that deal with empathy, kindness, hope, resiliency, and a lifelong appreciation for the arts. And finally, the last section, I just squeezed to get it on this page, a critical, vibrant part of a well-rounded education that prepares the students for success once they leave school. If you'd like additional research, there's a research study that was done in 2010 and was repeated in 2015, sponsored by the Missouri Alliance for Arts Education. And there are links there to the summary and to the full report. And these 4 points are what our own independent research indicated, with improved attendance rates, which is again one of the indicators for DESE performance evaluation review, test scores in math and ELA, and benefits for all students. So building positive relationships is foundational. Knowing who you're talking to and having that positive relationship will get you closer to meeting your goals. Building a coalition of students, parents, and community members helps you not be the only voice that is asking for the new kiln or time or whatever it is you are asking for. Building that coalition really helps eliminate some of the isolation that arts teachers feel. Sometimes they're the only one in their building, sometimes they're the only one in their district. And so build a network of people that will agree with you and will let their voices be heard for those same policymakers, decision makers, and stakeholders. So I'd like to introduce you to another resource available from MAAE, and that is our Show Me Arts Student Advocacy Training Initiative. It started back in 2008 when a group of students got behind a piece of legislation, and they worked and they lobbied and they studied and they did testimony at committee hearings and all kinds of stuff. And eventually in 2011, that legislation was passed. We were very proud of them, but also noticed that they just learned so much along the way. Not only did they help us get the legislation passed, but they learned about state government and they allowed their voices to be heard. And it gave them a unique perspective. And we decided at MAAE to continue the training initiative. So ever since then, we have sponsored the Show Me Arts Summit. And sometimes the assignment is in person. This year it was virtual, but it helps give students an opportunity to understand a little bit more what they can do. And we'll go over some more of what the students learn a little bit later on. But first things first, if you are over 18 and are you registered to vote? If yes, great. If not, please add this to your must-do list. Elected officials listen best to voting constituents, and if they know that you are registered to vote and you vote, they are more likely to listen. Another question is, do you have to be a certain age or to do advocacy work? And really, no, it's students' voices are really, really well heard. And I think that once you engage student voices in helping tell your story, whether you're collecting that on video footage or students actually go into the meeting with you, you will find that the decision makers listen differently to students and they listen carefully. And if you have time, take a look at that 15-year-old Greta Thunberg's presentation before the United Nations, and you will hear a little bit about the power of a student voice. So, building coalition, invite those students, parents, and community to be a part of whatever you are involved in. Now, a lot of you I know have Facebook pages, or you have Seesaw or channels that you use to invite that engagement. Use that for your advocacy. If you need a new kiln, or if you need additional art supplies, or something that you don't currently have, share that. Share your story. Share your needs. Let your students share those same stories, and you will build that coalition so that you will not be alone as you start this journey on whatever it is you're asking for. Specific evidence of value, numbers and anecdotal comments really help. Let's go back to the example of the kiln. Let's say that there's a temperature malfunction and it needs repair. Repair isn't in your classroom budget, and there isn't sufficient funds in the building repair account that you're needing to solicit outside funds. Whether you are asking a local business to donate services, or if you are seeking your administrative support to write a grant, whatever it is that you're going to do, saying we had 26 pieces of broken pottery. We had 15 pieces of art that we could not finish because of the temperature fluctuation. If you will give specifics and numbers and anecdotal comments, that helps tell your story, and it helps build support for whatever it is you're asking for. So you're a busy teacher. Your plate is full. Here in the pandemic especially, you've been asked to do things that you have never had to do in your career before. And it can feel overwhelming, like everything is overflowing. I can't do one more thing. And so I just encourage you, look for those places that are already a part of what you're doing. Yes, you can't add one more thing, especially if you don't take something away. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like very many people are wanting things to go away. So focus on advocacy work that is embedding your advocacy into your curricular work that you do with students all the time. View your program elements through a lens of advocacy. It kind of means changing the way that you look at what you do every day. So what are the elements of your school year? I just took a guess as to what some of them might be. I know arts teachers in my building were often asked to make the card for Nurses Day or for Principal's Day. But even in spite of all those things that were listed there, you have your daily lessons. And advocacy can become a part of those daily lessons. Students are your first and your most effective allies. If you have a fabulous lesson and they go home and tell their parents about it, they tell classmates about it, oh, you need to be in this class. We did X, Y, and Z. That's building that coalition of support for what you're doing. Parents and your coworkers are closely behind. Now, there is a culture among arts educators, I believe, that we don't talk about what we do with other people. We don't want to appear that we are bragging or that we are trying to elevate ourselves above another person. But finding ways to genuinely engage with your coworkers, maybe you're having after the pandemic, you're sitting across a lunchroom and you say, I had the coolest thing happen in class today, and give an anecdotal message that helps build coworker awareness of what happens in your classroom and how they might become your advocate for whatever it is that's coming next. So let's just pick the Spring Art Show. From the time you devise it or it's announced that it's going to be on this date, sharing your process will really help build that coalition. On social media, why did you choose this artist? Why are you choosing this approach? Why are you choosing this method? What are the educational standards, the fine art standards, the Missouri Learning Standards there that you are touching upon within this? And many times that learning applies to other subject areas. So you could mention, an overlap with ELA or an overlap with science as you are mixing colors or talking about light and shadow. And also share, how does this tie in with the school community? Maybe you were asked to do some Veterans Day cards, and there is some sort of connection to a Veterans Day event that you could piggyback your work on top of, or make sure that the veterans community knows about that work. Sharing what you're doing is key to building advocacy. Next is outreach. Now, this might be more than you can take on. All the suggestions that I might offer or that you can think of, you can't do them all. You're too busy. But maybe you could just think of one thing that you could do to engage the community more effectively. I'm thinking in particular, just make a general invitation, something that you don't have to change all the time, that is just a template that says, join us for, and then you can just put the event, the date, and the time, and then send that out through an email blast. Invite your school board members for sure. Invite district leaders. Invite your elected officials. If your principal knows, hey, Representative so-and-so is coming, they may make a more concerted effort to be there themselves. Same with the school board members. They want a chance to engage with elected officials for their own agenda, which many times overlaps yours, but getting your public to come to your school is critical. It's just so helpful. And if you can't do it all, just try to do just one little thing during the event. How do you communicate that your issue is important? How do you help the people that are coming know this is amazing? And your artist statements can do that. And not only is that an ELA connection in speaking and writing and communication, but kids can give their artist statements standing next to their work. You can pre-record artist statements with them standing next to your work right in your classroom, and then kind of play that on a video loop. You can have a printed program that has program notes about your program, about the lessons that you've taught, the units that you've engaged in, or if you are a tab teacher, the modules that your students have explored in addition to the work that they see. Another idea might be during that event, having activities where parents and students can become engaged in art that meet your curricular goals. One example I thought of was about line. See if they could find in the displayed artwork horizontal line and vertical line or diagonal lines that are most prominent in the work, and then have them circle on it like a little check sheet. How does this one make you feel? Are you angry? Are you excited? Are you calm? Are you peaceful? To make connections between line in art and the emotion and the expressive communication aspects of a given piece of art. And then testimonials and process statements on video. In preparation for another session that I'm working on with another presenter, I found this little YouTube video that showed how Thomas Hart Benton approached making of a mural. And it was like 10 minutes long. I was fascinated actually to see how he broke an egg and used that egg yolk to create his paint that he was going to work with, and how he used clay sculpture to get that definitive shadow and light work in his murals. It was amazing. And it just made me think, gosh, Your kids do amazing things in the classroom, capturing their process. I'm going to do this first, and then I'm going to do that. Letting parents see them build that resiliency when things aren't going well, as running parallel at a separate display station throughout your event just can underscore that message. Professionalism is key, and it's all about the details. You can get that coalition behind you, your colleagues, your volunteers, your students, so that someone else, not you, is taking care of the cookies, if there are cookies, uh, if we get to have cookies after the pandemic is over, so that you can be free to engage and answer questions and just make the event as professional as possible, and then speak your advocacy message to everyone who is present. And after the event, I know you're likely, if you're like me, so exhausted when that event is over. Save some juice and plan for the after before you even start. Let your story continue to be told. Video record, school TV, Facebook, Twitter, Seesaw post, thank you notes to the people who are decision makers who came, those special guests who were present. Seek their support and thank the students and the colleagues and the volunteers. Maybe your fourth grade teachers or your ELA teachers would help clean up after the cookies or take down the artwork. It's unfortunate for many art shows that the works of art get to stay up such a short period of time. So filming that after it is up to have a record of just what it felt like in that space and sharing some of those individual works like for an archive, you can use that footage later to complement your advocacy message. Advocacy is an ongoing process. And my predecessor, Ben Martin, said, if you want people to value your program, you have to help them know the value of your program because they don't know. They don't know the amount of work that goes in. They just see the finished product. And they don't know all of the life lessons that are happening all along the way. So help them know that, and you will build your allies that will speak loudly on your behalf and listen carefully when you do have a need that you want to ask for. The best case scenario, they become a part of your coalition and they start advocating for your program. So always be considering what it is you're asking for, what you think you might be asking for, and your audience, and finding those natural ways to foster relationships and reinforce your message. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about legislative advocacy. You might recognize in the corner there the MAAE call to action. And if you are not on our list of people to be informed about legislative issues, please let me know and I will add you to that list. I'm going to give you a little bit of legislative background information. You might remember back in the day.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee. But I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
So that was one of my favorite songs growing up. And the legislative process is that and a little bit more. The diagram on the side of your screen there shows that when a bill is introduced, there are various places where there is an opportunity to advocate, either in opposition to a bill or in favor of a bill that you want to see go through. And so we utilize all of those little places where the arrows are connecting, engage in testimony, in email correspondence, in research to help know what bills might benefit arts education and what bills might actually damage public education as we know it. So a little bit about the legislator listed right there. We need 82 votes to pass a bill in the House or to defeat a bill in the House, and 18 votes to pass a bill in the Senate. So we are watching those numbers very carefully. So do you know who your legislator is? Do you know your district number? It's important. And there's some links here to help you find it if you don't know. So these same advocacy guidelines that are listed here are exactly the same ones for your local issues. Be informed, be polite, reference something specific, make it personal, and talk about how the issue affects you. Have that specific ask, follow up, and remain in contact. And remember, they need you and your expertise. They don't know what you know. And if you don't know the answer, don't make something up. Say you don't know and that you can get the information and then follow up. Never, ever make up an answer on the spot. And actually, it works to your advantage sometimes if they ask you a question and you don't know the answer. And here's why: it gives you an opportunity, number one, to go and figure out the answer. But then it gives you another opportunity to engage with that person to say, whether, hey, I looked it up and here's the answer. And you can then reinforce your advocacy message. Most of the time, we ask you to answer the call to action via email. We try to do the legwork for you, the research, and provide some sample messages for you to customize because we know how busy you are. We also try to give a little bit of extra information that if you do want to know more, that you can find out more about whatever the issue is. What I thought I would share next with you is a few tips to do before your advocacy session. And this one is kind of geared toward legislators. It's what we share with our students: to know their name and how to pronounce it, know what you want, do your research, ask questions, seek the answers, creating your elevator speech that is clear and concise, gets right to the point, and is also as specific as possible, and then organizing the things that you leave behind. Maybe you only have 10 minutes with your principal to pitch the idea and then hand them some documentation that you would like them to review. Maybe you have only 1 minute or 2 minutes with a legislator while they are leaving the floor and getting ready to go to another council or committee meeting. So your tiny little pitch, and then hand them your business card, your brag sheet, the benefit statements, but something that will leave a positive, lasting impression. Sometimes less is more when it comes to that. You can refine your authentic message, again, using these tools that I shared with you earlier. Knowing your audience and then choosing just one of these will really give you some research to back up whatever it is you're asking for. During the interview, professionalism. Be polite, use manners, use full titles. Unless your relationship is so close, you might not always refer to your principal as Dr. So-and-so. But if you are less familiar with that person, using those titles just helps you be more professional. Quality over quantity. Their time is valuable and short. If you hand them a binder full of things to read, they will not read it. But if you can hand them a single sheet of paper with just your highlights bulleted, that might get read. Knowing your facts, answer questions, and again, don't make anything up. Say that you'll get back in touch and use that repeated contact to your advantage. And finally, leave on a positive note, thanking them for their time. With a legislator, sometimes take their picture to post on social media. It helps their visibility and also gives you a way to share what it is that you've been doing, again, through that advocacy lens. Afterwards, always send a thank you note after the visit. The note should be sent within 48 hours. Email is really quick. A card has a little longer lasting. And sometimes you can do both. Follow up with a plan of action. Remind your decision makers of your stance on the issue in your follow up and what you plan to do next. Share your positive results. And if you do get a negative result, just know what it's telling you. You have to build your coalition, that your voice wasn't heard in this particular moment, but maybe student voices will be heard, or parent voices will be heard, or community organizational voices will help bolster what it is you have in mind. So again, this is from our training with the kids, how to make contact. You're going to know if it's a local person what the best way is. And we are discovering that legislators have particular patterns that they like or don't like. So whatever it is, be clear, concise, and consistent. No matter what audience you are dealing with, whether it's at the legislative, state level, federal level, or at the local level, These advocacy tips may be useful to you. Potential issues, you're going to know your own local issues. You can always go to the MAAE website. We have our advocacy agenda there. And you can go see current state, House, and Senate bills that are under review by MAAE and what action, if any, we have taken. And there are 2 links under advocacy on our website. Our advocacy agenda does support full funding for the foundation formula and full funding for the Missouri Arts Council. The background about that can be accessed here, the non-resident athletes and entertainers tax. By clicking the link here, you can learn a little bit more detail about that. In statute, it says that the Missouri Arts Council can receive 60% of this revenue pool that comes from athletes and entertainers who come in from out of town. We're working with House Bill 12 to increase the amount. The governor has recommended 4.8, which is a 30 million below that 60% threshold. To recap, knowing your issue, knowing your audience, refine your message, rehearse and polish your delivery. These are some resources on the next slides that will help you develop your own asks. You can learn more about the person. For legislators, they have a bio in their house.mo.gov or senate.mo.gov. You can check their website, their Facebook page, their Twitter. What awards have they received? What have they introduced? What committees do they serve on? And how can you make a personal connection? On a little more local level, the bios of your state, your local Board of Education are likely posted. Maybe back when they were running for the office, it may be also on your district's website. Did your superintendent play an instrument? Did your principal sing in a choir? Did anyone engage in visual art that you know about? Making that personal connection just is another way of knowing the audience and then refining your message for that audience. Here's a bunch of resources that you can go to if you need specific help. We are so lucky at MAAE. We have the services of a lobbyist. Her name is Kaina Iman, and her email address is there. There are a plethora of websites that have done arts and economic impact studies. I think the most recent data we have is from 2017. But knowing your issue so that you can be ready with different responses. I love this example. Doesn't state funding cause dependence on public funds? And then the answer that's listed there. These help you become more informed about your issue so that when questions are asked during your interview and you're asking, you will be able to answer them and show your level of preparation. These are some of those economic impact studies. There's a large contingent, I think, especially in Missouri, who don't value the arts as a real economic player. And being able to say that 10 billion was added to the state's economy and that 92,000 are involved in arts employment. And I think that's a conservative number because most of this only is dealing with the nonprofit community. On follow-up, maintain that relationship. And I'm going to encourage you, please consider signing up to be a part of our Adopt a Legislator program. We are trying to get an arts-friendly partner for every legislator in our state. And so we've got a little sign-up genius that was put together by our friends at the Missouri Citizens for the Arts, another advocacy group. Once you're in contact, to stay in contact. Share your concerns, show your appreciation for votes that are friendly to education and to arts education, sending thank you notes, and just being a positive, continuing presence, part of their constituency. Please remember, advocacy is not just talking to legislators and policymakers. Advocacy is something that happens every day. And as you build relationships, you build that coalition. It's really a frame of mind, and it is never, ever finished. It's always, how can I share the importance of arts education and what I do, its value to my students, its impact on my school, on my community and the world? How can I help everyone know what I already know. Don't forget about businesses and teachers. Um, I know, again, I know you're very busy and you can't do all of these things, but even if you just make it as your goal, maybe once a month, you will find one constituent to join your coalition that is somebody you know that you can call and say, will you please write a letter of recommendation? Will you please come with me to this meeting? Will you please um, allow me to showcase student work on your platform, whatever it is? Whether it's a local hospital that might let your student artwork and some of their artist stories be shared. Just anything, just pick maybe just one every 2 months or one a month to build that community who will help support you. And showing what you do lets your art speak for itself. Gaining a little transparency into process will really, really help you in whatever it is that you are seeking for change. Making sure that your social media presence is strong. You might foster a booster club. These are all ideas. People who are actually out doing the work. I remember my art teacher had a mom and her daughters who made scarves, as a gateway. Learning about the budget. Oh, this is so important. I didn't know until I was in the field of education for maybe 12 or 15 years that if I didn't have my ask in front of my bosses by December, so that they could have it in front of their bosses by January, so they could have it in front of the superintendent staff by February, that's when the decisions were made. I didn't know that until I was 15 years in. So learning about the budget in your neck of the woods will help you get your ask to the right person at the right time. Another great thing is the end of our fiscal year was always June 30th. So knowing that by May 15th, there were a few dollars perhaps in this fund or that fund that if they did not finish spending it, that the building lost access to it. So that's when you really leverage your positive relationship you've made with your school secretary, who may know that there is an extra $300 in this part of the budget that could be moved to get you those extra glue sticks or to get you a set of markers for whatever it is, whatever your needs are. Just know, but that comes from knowing about the budget process. So find it out in your neighborhood. It will really help you. So do these efforts make a difference? Please know. Please know the answer is yes. Even if you can't see the result this minute, it might help you for next year. It might help the year after that. It might even help your successor. Your efforts make a difference, and we need your voice. We need your persistence. We need your advocacy. The arts and culture in Missouri do need you. And ultimately, setting your next steps. It is about building relationships, building a network of people who share your ideals and who will become a framework of support for whatever it is that you think you want to do. And remember, keep the ball rolling. Advocacy is a frame of mind. It is never complete. Each act of advocacy lays the groundwork for the next act of advocacy. I talk with some of these arts teachers who've had this program that in year one, it was small. And in year two, it grew. And in year three, it got even bigger. And that's what happens with your advocacy efforts too. Maybe you just reach out to that one business this month. And then next year, you revisit that business and the one next door because they liked it and they want a part of it too. Start small, but each little tiny act lays the groundwork for the next and will help your program become stronger. I want to bring a couple of things to your attention. The Arts Are Education is an advocacy initiative. It's a nationwide one. It's super easy. All you have to do is click the link and sign the pledge. You can sign as an individual. You can sign on behalf of an organization if you are authorized to do so. And your students can sign, your parents can sign. And there's a place you can go online and you can see who has signed, how many signers are from your state. So please just sign the pledge. Number two is a little trickier and might take a little bit more effort, but it is bringing the resolution, the Arts Art Education resolution, before your school board. Now, not every school board welcomes their own teachers. I know this sounds weird. Um, Not every school board welcomes their teachers coming before the board. Sometimes it feels to the administrators who are between that teacher and the school board that they are going around the administrative process. So just be cognizant of the political dynamics in your school district. But to bring that resolution before your school board helps lay the groundwork so that if there is a question about cutting the arts budget at some time in the future, you can go back to this resolution and say, but you as a board have resolved to do all that you can to maintain the arts, to keep the arts strong in our district. You can download that. When you click that link, you can download the resolution and customize it. You can put your own logo on it. If it mentions coursework that you don't offer in your district, you can take that out. But just it can be used like as a template, and then take that resolution to provide formalized support for arts education from your board. We really encourage you to do that. And so click that link. There's some considerations, what you might think about before you do that. And there was a really successful one in Lee's Summit. My predecessor, Ben Martin, didn't go as a former teacher. He went as a member of the arts community. And they had a whole coalition of folks from their Lee's Summit area that said, the teachers aren't bringing you this. The kids aren't bringing you this. We, your arts community, are bringing this to you. We would like for you to sign off on that. So, and again, tell your stories. What is happening? Please hashtag Mo Arts or Education and mention Mo Arts Ed in any of your social media posts. We love to hear your stories. Next, we have a professional learning community. We want to invite you to be a part of it. It meets once a month. It's free. And it's called the Missouri Arts Integration Network. And there are links to this in your PowerPoint that you'll get. We have a second professional learning community called the Fine Arts Missouri Educators. And it's not just for people who are arts integration practitioners. It's for anyone who would like to know more. The agenda is set by the people who come, and it allows you to gain a little bit of insight into the nonprofit world and what fabulous arts education resources that community has that are available to you to help you and your students. So please join us. So that brings my presentation to a close. If you have any questions, I invite you to email me at director@moaae.org. And I also want to remind you that the Missouri Alliance for Arts Education is a 501c3, and your tax-deductible contributions help us continue this work. So please consider a donation, and there's a link to how to do that. Within the confines of this, I have put all the links from the presentation onto this screen, and I invite you to click on any of those links, and again, reach out to me if you have any questions at all. I thank you for your time today. I appreciate all that you do to support Missouri's students, and I invite you to engage with us in any of our professional learning communities. I invite you to visit our website at www.moaae.org. Until next time, have a great rest of your conference, and thank you for letting me be part of it. Bye.